lot of people here. Okay, so today you guys are all already teachers, right? Yes. Like everybody's already a teacher, and then this is a program for people coming back and getting new ideas. Cool. All right. I wasn't nervous until I told one of my coworkers on the other side. I work at the language center, and I told my coworker I was doing this, and she was like, "Oh, it's a big deal," and I was like, "Oh." So now I'm a little nervous, so I'm sorry if I get nervous. Okay, so basically today what I'm going to talk to you guys about is using board games as a tool for learning. Are you all English teachers, or do you teach other subjects? Except for one. Everybody's an English teacher here? Physics. Excellent. Alright, well the cool thing is regardless of what you teach, I'm mainly going to be talking about how to use board games for language skills. But one of the reasons I like board games so much is it's not just language skills. No matter what game you're playing, there's going to be logic, there's going to be mathematics, there's going to be other things. So the great thing, I think everybody got copies of these. I think so. These are kind of like a DM or a write-up, sort of an advertisement for conversation classes based around board games. One is based on adults, and the other one is based on kids. The one that's for kids is a little bit longer. And the one that, if you look at them side by side, the one that's like 2 lines longer, that's the one that's for children. Basically, what I did for the adults one is I just took out a few words and I just changed things so that it was more directed toward an adult audience. Unfortunately, the files are named adult and kid, but I didn't actually write it on the paper, so I apologize if there's confusion on there. If you see the words students do not students, that's the one for kids. So I'm going to talk about the one that says for students. One of the reasons that I actually run a games class at my school, and the kids sign up through the school, and they come in, and that's all we do. There is no vocabulary. There's tons of vocabulary, but there's no homework, there's no vocabulary sheets, there's no tests, there's nothing. And my boss and I actually had a really big conflict over this, because he was like, "No, we need to have tests." And I was like, "No!" Because if we have tests, then the kids all of a sudden realize they're studying. And I want to trick them into thinking they're not studying. And that's what this paper talks about right here. I'm not going to read through it because you guys are perfectly capable of reading. But essentially what the idea was, and when I talk to the parents, okay, these are the parents, okay? I'm talking to the parents. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to play these games. And these kids have to learn all the vocabulary, they have to learn the sentence patterns, and they need to understand the mechanics of the game and the way to communicate with each other in the game. And because of that, they want to do that. They want to be able to do it. They want to play the game properly. So then they're really keen on it, and they totally don't realize they're learning new words, they're learning sentence pattern structures, and they're using them over and over and over again. In a game that takes 1 hour, you can drill a series of vocabulary, say 20 or 30 vocabulary words, and probably like anywhere from 5 to 20 sentence patterns in an hour. How many times could you drill that in a regular classroom? Okay, everybody say book, 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 book. Okay, I'm bored. Who's bored? All right. The kids are like, kill me now, because the time it takes for you to get bored is half for them. They get bored way faster. So you have to find something that they find fun, right? So these games are totally different, and then they're like, "Yay, I'm playing a game!" And they're like, "Da da 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 da." And what you do is you don't let them say it wrong. If they say it wrong, you take away points. You tell them they can't play anymore. Sit this round out. And I write all the pertinent vocabulary. You know, in my class, there's no vocabulary sheets. There's no whatever. But I write all the pertinent vocabulary on the board. We talk about what it means, and sometimes they're like, "Can we get to the game?" And I'm like, "Okay, fine, here's the game, how do you play?" And they're like, "Alright, what's that vocabulary word?" And then they learn it, right? But then the fun part is that like weeks later, you'll talk to them, you'll talk to them, And you know, you're like, tell me some words you learned from the games. And my students are so funny. They're like, boatmaster, canal keeper. And I'm like, what's a canal keeper? And they're like, that's the guy who directs the water. And I'm like, okay, well this is really useful vocabulary, right? And the kids don't see it as study. As far as the kids are concerned, they are tricking everyone into letting them play. They're like, ha ha ha, you think we're studying, but really, we're just goofing around. The best part is, they believe that. Now the parents, my parents, okay, we're not going to give the kids worksheets, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, but we're going to make them play these games. And then the parents are like, yeah, but they're not studying. And I'm like, oh, but they are. They're practicing the same words over and over and over and over and over again. And they are like super excited about it. If they say it wrong, everybody yells at them. They're like, no, you said that word wrong. Say it right or you can't play. Right? And then the parents are like, wait, hang on a minute. Are you telling me that my kid wants to take this class and wants to study, but doesn't think it's study? And I'm like, yeah. And like I had one parent say, you're the most clever person I've ever met. And I was like, why? And she's like, you understand parents and children's mentality. And I'm like, well, I'm an adult, but I'm a child at heart. I love playing games. So, basically, it's using games as a study aid for anybody works really, really well. I know several people actually who have taught themselves a lot of English just because they're board game enthusiasts, and a lot of board games are in English. And a lot of the people who play board games, English is sort of the common language, right? Like a lot of the board games are in German, or they're in English, or they're in Chinese. But, you know, if you have a German guy, an English guy, and a Chinese guy, chances are they don't all speak German or Chinese, but they're all going to speak some English. So what happens is everybody plays in English. There's a guy who works at the company who I frequently pilfer games from, and his English, his grammar is atrocious. Like, it is clear he has never formally studied English, but he can communicate what he wants to say. He can tell you his idea. It is not clear, but he can make himself understood, and he's never studied. How did he do that? Because he loves games, and he plays games all the time. So sometimes he's like a little bit, you're like, wait, what did you say? But most of the time he says something, and he knows the most crazy vocabulary words. And I'm like, why do you know this word? He's like, oh, it was in Dominion. And I'm like, okay. Okay, so I'm going to show you a few games that I have. There's some on the list here. There's one on the list that's actually really cool that I couldn't get a sample for, unfortunately. And it's called I Dark Board. It's on the list, but I don't actually have it here. Here's one that is not on the list, but I did bring it. This one's called Switch Junior. Okay, you guys all know the game where you do this, right? And I'm drawing and you're shouting out answers, right? Pictionary. Do you guys know the name Pictionary? Game Pictionary? Alright. This game is sort of like that, but the difference is, instead of drawing a picture, there's all of these little pieces, and they have little shapes on them. Can you see that? There's little pieces with shapes. And then what you end up doing is you like put them together to make some kind of picture. Wow, that's not good. You put them together to make some kind of picture. And the suggested pictures are right here. So you pull out a card and you have a look at that, and it's like brew. And then it shows you what pieces you're supposed to use to assemble it. You put it together, and while you're putting it together, everybody's shouting everything they can think of. It's like stick, turtle, banana, frankfurter, and they just shout words at each other, and eventually they're like, yeah, you get it right, or time's up. Really, really, really simple game. This one is a very good vocabulary building / vocabulary practice. The thing that's like, oh, why is this special? Why is it cool? It's because the whiteboard games, the downside of the whiteboard games is the children associate this with class. So whenever you're using this, they're like, it's an instant reaction.